In public service British news broadcasting, editorial and presentational techniques are increasingly used to represent a particular form of British national identity as opposed to the same news stories as they are depicted on non-British news. We see this, for instance, on British news in editorial decisions that prioritise news items skewed towards the defence and firefighting of the British Prime Minister's mistakes instead of the more neutral representation and reporting of the same events on non-British news. Mark Easton describes how, quote, British and English identities are intertwined. They are strands of the same national thread, end quote, and how in a recent poll by YouGov and academics that, quote, among Leave supporters in the Brexit referendum, English pride is 75%. Among those who voted Remain, it is 44%, end quote. This increased sense of pride in English or British national identity among Brexit supporters and the current UK government appears to have bled into the representation of news events on the UK's public service news broadcasting service, the BBC. Taking the example of the recent Partygate scandal in the UK, which centres around illegal gatherings held by the UK government during the COVID pandemic, in contrary to rules around such gatherings that it had itself created and put into law, we can see how this increased sense of British national identity has altered reportage of these events against the principles of neutrality that a public service broadcaster such as the BBC traditionally upholds. Against the criminal activity that appears to have taken place, we witness how the BBC tries to downplay any wrongdoing or seriousness despite the fact that the vast majority of the rest of the country abided by the rules broken. In contrast, we can look at how the same event is portrayed on both European and American news channels, where a depiction of the story contains more simplified representations of the scandal, devoid of any British national interest, where attempts to downplay the wrongdoing that has supposedly taken place exist. Nosek picks up on this discrepancy in their paper. In the paper, the theoretical assumption is that, quote, when a foreign news item is defined as ours, then journalists' professional practices become subordinate to national loyalty. When an item is theirs, journalistic professionalism comes into its own, end quote. This fault line, combined with an increased sense of British national identity since Brexit, has resulted in a divergence from the facts in matters of perceived national interest on public service British news broadcasting.
COVID-19 is spreading faster in India than anywhere else in the world.
Morris argues that the, quote, situation seems grave for traditional civic-minded journalism that aims to convey information honestly to promote healthy debate in the public interest, end quote, and how a, quote, strategy of discrediting, of divesting from reality can become the very principle of government, end quote. This is the central danger of such behaviour, and throughout this video we have seen how the literature attached to the misuse of representations of British national identity on TV news is borne out in reality.
Well, I think some of these allegations have got a little bit out of hand. I mean, what really happened here is a group of staff, small group of staff who've been working closely with the Prime Minister, brought in a birthday cake at the end of the day, and there was 10 minutes there around sharing a piece of cake. I don't think that really constitutes, a party in the way that some of the other more serious allegations that are being investigated maybe do.